it's Miss G from the ACCA and our Apple a Day program, and today I am going to be talking about something that may seem exhausting. It may seem like you have heard it all before, as if everyone's talking about it, but the truth is that no one's talking about the side effects, the harmful effects, and that is smoking and vaping. Now, one of the reasons this topic is extremely important to me is because of secondhand smoke and third-hand smoke, and those affected me in a really big way. Every day I wake up, I have to take a prescription pill for my lungs. I have to take my first inhaler, my second inhaler, and then I have to carry a rescue inhaler with me all day long. And that's because for my entire childhood, my dad smoked. He smoked in the house, he smoked outside of the house, he smoked in the car, he smoked in the living room, and he didn't realize just how bad it was for me, for my little 5-year-old self who just wanted to be around her parents. They didn't put it together yet that smoking, even though I've never done it, I've never had a cigarette, I've never smoked, my lungs suffered. I have asthma, and I was diagnosed with asthma in 4th grade. Now, lots of kids grow out of it, some people don't. I never did. And it makes it really difficult. I love roller skating and swimming, and I love being able to train and run 5Ks. But it's also tricky because I have to carry an inhaler with me every single day. And it's not just the one inhaler. It's if I don't take those special medications, I can't breathe. And this is something that, even though we're talking about, oh, smoking's bad for you, don't vape, don't smoke, we need to remember that, hey, this stuff affects everybody. It's not just me. It's not just the person who uses those devices. It's the people around them. It's the people in your houses. And it's the environment. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about vaping before I read our story. So when we talk about vaping, there's a lot of misconception. There's a lot of, oh, well, it's this, it's that. And I'm here to talk kind of more about what it does, how it works, and the environmental impact. Because for me, that's huge. And the environment is kind of a big deal. I mean, New York recently put into effect a plastic bag ban. They want us to use more reusable bags, but people don't always think of vaping and smoking as harmful for the environment. So one of the things is that when there is the annual international coastal and urban cleanups, nearly 40% of all those items collected are cigarette butts. 40%! And there are disposal systems, there are garbage cans. Even when you find a place that has a container for cigarette disposal, like outside of a Stewart's, you still see butts on the ground. So when the U.S. removed items from beaches and waterways, they found over 1,030,640 cigarette butts. And that's from one cleanup. So these are really into the environment. That's not including what's happening with Juuls and vaping and Juul pods. Okay, so what happens with the Juul pods is that people don't realize you can't throw them in the garbage. You cannot throw them in the garbage. They are actually classified as a household hazardous waste. And that means you have to go and find a hazardous waste disposal site in order to properly get rid of Juul pods or the electronic cigarette part of it, the pen part. And let's be honest, a lot of us, recycling is hard, so how many people who use these things are taking that initiative to go and put their Juul pods, their used pods, where they belong? And you might think, oh, it's just more plastic waste, blah, blah, blah. It's not. What happens is if there's still any residual liquid in those pods and they get crushed, that liquid goes into the ground. It gets into our groundwater. It can be affecting the wildlife and the animals around us. So honestly, it's not worth it. Now, you probably want some statistics too. Well, in 2017, 11% of high school students had used an e-cigarette in the past 30 days. Not that many. By 2018, that number had risen to 21%. And last year, in 2019, that's 27.5% of high school students had used e-cigarettes in the past month. In New York State, smoking isn't allowed until you're 21. And just because it's allowed then doesn't mean that you should do it. Okay? Just because something's legal doesn't mean it's safe. And that's something that we might forget sometimes, and that's okay. But we want to remember the best way to combat this is don't even start. And when you look at the Juul website, it says that they need to be disposed of to a hazardous or special waste collection point in accordance with your local area. So I wanted to know what that meant. Well, I looked up collection sites near me, near my job, near where I live, and they're kind of hard to just Google, where's my household hazardous waste collection site? So after some research, there are events that will take things, and you will have to drive a little bit to find them. So again, are people who are addicted concerned about what these are doing to the environment? Next time you go somewhere, look at the ground. Are there cigarette butts everywhere? Are there Juul pods on the ground? What about if those batteries start leaking? I know for me, I'm a save the turtles person, hug a tree, and honestly, I don't like seeing cigarette butts and vape cartridges on the ground, but I also have to think, when I walk my dog wants to sniff and bite everything. What happens if she eats one of these? What happens if a toddler going on a walk with their parents sees one on the ground? These things aren't just harmful for the person using them. It's this whole big effect. And that's one of the things that we really need to think about. And, everyone has a choice to make. You make the choice to use these products or not use them. You make the choice to dispose of them safely or dispose of them incorrectly. Now, I can't tell you what choice to make, but I can tell you that vaping and smoking is hurting your body, because that's a fact. We can look that up. I can also tell you it's hurting the environment, and it's hurting the people around you. So, in the end, is it really worth it? To end today, I am going to read a book, and it's a story that I am sure most of us have seen before. I actually have it in an ebook format on my computer, so I'm going to switch my camera a little bit, and yeah. All right. Oh, today we are going to be reading The Lorax. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing excepting old crows, is the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood, just as long as it could, before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there, and why was it lifted and taken somewhere, far from the far end of town where the grickle grass grows? The old Onceler still lives here. Ask him, he knows. You won't see the Onceler, don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkum on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkum, cold under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of myth-muffered moof. And on special dank midnights in August he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks, and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail, and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather snail. Then he pulls up the pail, makes a most careful count, to see if you've paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you paid him away in his snub, his secret strange hole in his gravulous scrub. Then he grunts, I will call you by whispermaphone, for the secrets I tell are for your ears alone. Slip! Down slips the whispermaphone to your ear, and the old Onceler's whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a snurgelly hose, and he sounds as if he had smallish bees up his nose. Now I'll tell you, he says, with his teeth sounding gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet and the clouds were still clean and the song of the swami swans rang out in space, one morning I came to this glorious place. And I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright-colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw brown barbaloots frisking about in their barbala suits, as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the ripulous pond came the comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, all my life I've been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had the sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart. I knew just what I'd do. I'd unload my cart. In no time at all, I had built a small shop. Then I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop, and with great skillful skill, and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft, and I knitted a thneed. How colorful everything is. The instant I'd finished, I'd heard a gazump. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I'd chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. "Mister," he said with a sawdusty sneeze, "I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues, and I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs." He was very upset as he shouted and puffed. "What's that thing you've made out of my trufala tuft?" "Look, Lorax," I said, "there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I am doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing is a thneed. A thneed's a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat. But it has other uses, yes, far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers for bicycle seats." The Lorax said, "Sir, you are crazy with greed. There is no one on earth who would buy that fool thneed." But the very next minute, I proved he was wrong, for just at that minute, a chap came along, and he thought that the thneed I had knitted was great. He happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax. "You poor stupid guy. You never can tell what some people will buy." "I repeat," cried the Lorax, "I speak for the trees." "I'm busy," I told him. "Shut up, if you please." I rushed across the room, and in no time at all, built a radio phone. I put in a quick call. I called all my brothers and uncles and aunts, and I said, "Listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast, take the road to North Nitch, turn left at Weehawken, sharp right at South Stitch." And in no time at all, in the factory I built, the whole Onceler family was working full tilt. We were all knitting thneeds, just as busy as bees, to the sound of the chopping of trufala trees. Then, oh, baby, oh, how my business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 trufala trees at one smacker. We were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before. And that Lorax? He didn't show up anymore. But the next week he knocked on my new office door. He snapped, "I'm the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please, but I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots who played in the shade in their barbaloo suits and happily lived eating trufala fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough trufala fruit to go round, and my poor barbaloots are all getting the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies." They loved living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. "Good luck, boys," he cried, and he sent them away. I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go. But business is business, and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. I meant no harm, I most truly did not, but I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, I biggered my wagons, I biggered the loads. Of the thneeds I shipped out, I was shipping them forth to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. I went right on biggering, selling more thneeds, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then again he came back. I was fixing some pipes when that old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. "I am the Lorax," he coughed and he whiffed. He sneezed and he snuffled, he snargled, he sniffed. "Onceler," he cried with a crufulous croak, "Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swami swans, why they can't sing a note. No one can sing who has smog in his throat." "And so," said the Lorax, "pardon my cough, they cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. Where will they go? I don't hopefully know. They may have to fly for a month or a year to escape from the smog you've smogged up around here." "What's more," snapped the Lorax, his dander was up, "let me say a few words about Gluppity-Glup. Your machinery chugs on, and day and night without stop, making Gluppity-Glup, also Schloppity-Schlop. And what do you do with this leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old Onceler man, you. You're glumping the pond where the humming fish hummed. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary." And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax, "Now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap and say, 'Bad, bad, bad, bad.' Well, I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you, I intend to go on doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering, turning more Trufala trees into thneeds, which everyone needs." And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall, the very last Trufala tree of them all. No more trees, no more thneeds, no more work to be done. So in no time, my uncles and aunts, everyone, all waved me goodbye. They jumped into my cars and drove away under the smoke-smuggered stars. Now all that was left 'neath the bad-smelling sky was my big, empty factory, the Lorax, and I. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance, just gave me a very sad... Sorry about that. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance, just gave me a very sad backward glance, as he lifted himself by the seat of his pants, and I'll never forget the grim look on his face when he hoisted himself and took leave of this place, through a hole in the smog without leaving a trace. And all that the Lorax left here in this mess was a small pile of rocks with one word, unless. Whatever that meant, well, I just couldn't guess. That was long ago, but each day since that day, I've sat here and worried away. Through the years while my buildings have fallen apart, I've worried about it with all of my heart. But now, says the Onceler, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better, it's not. So, catch, calls the Onceler. He lets something fall. It's a Trufala seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the Trufala seeds, and Trufala trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new Trufala, treat it with care, give it clean water and feed it fresh air, grow a forest, protect it from axes that hack, then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. The the end. I chose the Lorax today because I think that you can draw so many parallels between what happens to the environment when people are smoking and vaping, whether that be our natural environment, trees, grass, oceans, or whether it just be the environment in your home. If you need help quitting or finding information, I will add all of that into the description at the top of this video once I am done filming. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day and a great week. Bye!